Time to move on as we're moving into a completely different realm. Tommy DeCarlo, lead vocalist with Boston. Now, he's got a story to tell and a new album out. It is called Dancing in the Moonlight. We're going to be hearing from Tommy in a second, but let's get a taste of this new album. And here is the title track. It is called Dancing in the Moonlight. All those years on from sitting at that upright piano in your parents' front room as a kid, here you are with your own debut solo album, Dancing in the Moonlight. Now, the previous Lightning Strikes Twice from a couple of years ago was with the DeCarlo band. Why was the decision made for you to go solo on this rather than do another DeCarlo album?
Well, Serafino,
Yes.
the head of the label, he had kind of a vision after we did our original debut album, Lightning Strikes Twice, and he had a vision for me to do a solo album with some of Frontier's staff, the writers, other musicians, and for me personally, I was flattered by that. Of course, I would have loved to have had the DeCarlo full band in on this record, but that intrigued me to do something with a group of different musicians, especially from the label, because I knew that they were really going to be a top-notch group of writers and musicians. So, I think there will be another DeCarlo release, but in the meantime, I thought this was something nice because I already released the DeCarlo album. That was our debut album, so I was very excited about that. Excuse me, but this was just a little something different, and it turned out fantastic. I mean, I couldn't be more thankful for the opportunity, from Frontiers to record another album with them. So, that really was a blessing in and of itself.
Yes. The right is being different this time around as well because you're communicating a lot via email with the guys over at Frontiers, obviously being Italy based. How difficult or easy did you find that to accommodate?
Tim, I got to tell you, this was probably one of the easier projects that I've been involved with for this particular project, simply because all of the writing was done by Frontiers. The record was basically ready to go. It just needed my vocals, and that is something I was so pressed for time with other projects that I really wasn't going to have time to write. So they worked it out to where their writers and their producers put the album together. And once it was all set, they handed it off to me. And of course, I got to work on the vocals. So I really have to, tip my hat to Frontiers, especially their writing staff and their musicians. Alessandro Del Vecchio in particular, because he did such a great job writing and producing the album.
Yeah, he did a fantastic job. Now, this genre of hard melodic rock AOR has been around for decades, and it's not easy to pull off producing an album that, although it's got its roots in the 70s and the 80s, is fit for 2023. So as you get not only classic rock fans, but you keep the genre alive for a new audience, a new younger audience. But that's been done with this because it does fit today.
Yeah, that's true. The key is the younger generation, turning them onto something that otherwise they may not have had an opportunity to hear or to listen to. And this particular melodic classic rock is, it's been around, like you say, it's been around a long time. But, given what's being played on the radio these days, it's really rather strange because you got to search for this music. It's not, up in the front like it used to be.
Yeah.
And I really take a lot of pride in doing a good job to bring this music, to keep this music relevant, in the lives of not only people who listened to it back in the day, but to the younger generation. And one of the great things about live performances that I have been a part of is seeing the younger kids come out with their moms and dads, and they are turning their kids onto this music. So just again, it's a wonderful genre. It's not in the forefront like it used to be, but I think between a lot of great musicians and bands that are still out there doing it today, we're doing our best to keep this music going in 2023.
So the reception has been exceptionally positive for Dancing in the Moonlight. It's funny, isn't it, when you read, because you can go online and you can hear and watch what people are talking about, but it's funny how people hear different things. Some fans saying, hey, this is as close to a Boston album as we're ever going to get now. And others say, I don't need Boston in this at all. I can hear a little bit of Styx in this, but I can't hear any Boston.
Sure.
So where do you sit with it? Was there a plan to purposely not make it sound like a Boston album? Because the press release said it's going back to the classic sound of Third Stage and Walk On.
Well, I think for me, no. Again, I didn't have anything to do with the writing and producing of the record. So that probably would be a better question for Frontiers. But as far as being compared to, a Boston album, I mean, that's what an honor. It's those record. I mean, the music that Tom Scholz produced, wrote, engineered, recorded, back in the day, in Third Stage specifically, was one of my favorite albums.
Yeah,
and I think it was the one I waited longest for. But it's an honor to be mentioned in the same breath of a Boston album, and although it wasn't anything that I did, or I don't think the label did anything to purposely go in that direction, but it's such a fun genre to record.
Yeah.
There's so much you could do, and again, if someone compares it to a Boston album, then I'm flattered, and that's really all I can say. It's just very flattering to be mentioned in the same breath as a Boston album.
So has this given you more personal satisfaction, knowing that you can put together an album of this quality? Obviously, you've had the help of the guys from Frontiers, but it is a very, very high quality product, and it's your name that is on it. Has that given you more personal satisfaction than getting up on stage and performing with Boston?
Yeah, I would say that it has, in a different way, because performing live is a kind of a different animal altogether. Doing something in the studio is different. You can take a little more time, and you can fix your mistakes. Whereas in a live show, it is what it is. If you mess something up, it is what it is. You don't have a second chance, at least not during that show. But it really has. It makes me feel very good to know that I have, at least Frontiers saw in me something that they felt was, worthy of a second opportunity with Dancing in the Moonlight. So I'm very thankful again for that. But that was, again, it's just yes, personal satisfaction. Absolutely, it makes me feel good to know that. 15, 20 years ago, I would have never dreamed of having an opportunity to release an album, my first solo album, through a major record label. It wasn't even a thought, because it was something that I thought was so far out of reach that it would never happen.
It is one of those rare albums that doesn't dip in the middle. It doesn't have that sort of, that great start, that thumping great start where you get three fabulous tracks and then you get that dip and then it comes back at the end. These are all of a similar level right the way throughout. And in some respects, it maybe finishes stronger than it starts. I'm thinking in particular of Spread Your Wings and Fly.
When we started this project, Frontiers would send me one or two songs at a time to record. And which I was able to do right here in my home studio, which was great. But with every song that they sent me, like you just said, Tim, I waited for that lull too. I waited for that drop off point where, well, these two were great. Let's hear the next one. And it really was one right after the other. And it was just, just a wall of power that came across on every track that was, it had its own, special vibe. And it was for me to sing. I couldn't wait to get the next track. I mean, that's how excited I was after every track that I recorded. They'd send me Dancing in the Moonlight. And I'd be like, great, I can't wait to hear the next one. And then they'd send, The Game Is On. And it was, Beyond Forever, just one after another was just, for a singer, it was, I had a field day with that.
Did you think, by the way, I have to say that I did, when I saw the track listing and the album details coming out, I thought, oh, we've done a cover of Thin Lizzy.
I never thought of that, but yeah, that's pretty cool.
So you've done all the hard work. You've got this great product out there. The big issue today is to actually get it to somewhere that they're going to play it, that is going to open it up to a wider audience. How do you approach that, or how do you, in conjunction with the record company, approach that to make sure as many people actually hear some of the great stuff that is on here as possible?
Yeah, well, for me, all I can do is word of mouth. I can do social media. I could do interviews such as we're doing here. But again, Frontiers really, they take the torch and run with it, and they have just a fantastic track record of being able to reach a lot of people. And it's too bad that there isn't, radio like it used to be, because I told my son, now even going back to Lightning Strikes Twice, our first album, certainly I'm proud of that album. I wrote, all of the songs on it. But, there's a couple in there that are kind of filler songs. I have to be real with myself, but there are a few gems on that record that I really like. And I told my son, Tommy Jr., I says, if we wrote a couple of these songs back in, the late 70s, early 80s, they would have been in rotation on the radio. At least that's what I believe. So it's really too bad that radio stations aren't as heavy with this stuff as they once were, and because I think it misses. You're missing a lot of great music, not only stuff that I've done, but other artists have done. That's just amazing. That it's too bad that it doesn't get on mainstream radio.
So it doesn't get on the radio, but you can certainly get out and play it. What are the plans for you to get out and tour with the band and take some of the music to a live stage?
Yeah, well, that's something that I'm really hoping happens. Again, I think that is going to depend on how well the record is received. Of course, Frontiers is going to have all the numbers on that. But the hope is to be able to get out on the road and perform this music live. And I think it's going to be the type of music that once people hear it, I think they're going to want to hear it again, just as I did when I recorded it.
Has Tom heard it yet?
I have no idea. If he
have
did,
you not sent him a CD? A signed one?
Yeah, right. No, I don't know. If he has, I wouldn't know it, but I do tend to believe that Tom would be proud of any musicians that have been in his band that have gone out and done stuff on their own. And really not leaned on him for for that. And I admire Tom. He is a one of my biggest inspirations. And the funny thing is, through the opportunity that he gave me back in 2007 to come up on stage and perform with the band Boston, that has resulted in so many other opportunities. And truthfully, Tim, I would be talking to you today if Tom didn't give me that opportunity back in 2007. And at least that's what I believe.
Do you believe in fate? Because, when you look back at your remarkable story, which literally begins with you going around to your mother's house, you're looking after your pet, after their pets while she's away, right. And you end up with playing on the Casio keyboard, the rearrangement of the song, A Man He'll Always Be, coming home, your daughter hearing it, uploading it onto MySpace, and then the story begins. Do you ever sit and think, if I'd have woken up that morning with a sore throat, or I'd had a puncture or a flat on the car and I hadn't made it there, none of this would have happened?
I know. It's really crazy. I do tend to believe in fate. I think things happen for a reason, and again, I look back as a kid, and one of my most vivid memories is sitting in the backseat of my parents' station wagon, playing or singing along with songs that I heard on the radio. And then I remember I was in sixth grade, and this is probably one of my strongest memories musically. I was in choir class, and there were two groups of students. There was the sopranos, which was I was in that group, and then there was the altos. And each of us had a different part to sing in this one particular song that the music teacher was working with us on. Her name was Mrs. Schmidt, just a beautiful music teacher. So when she brought us all together to sing it together and put our parts together, I remember I got this amazing chill in my body. And I remember looking around at my classmates, thinking to myself, did any of you feel that? Did any of you feel what I just felt? Wasn't that amazing? But of course, I didn't say that. It was just something that I felt. And I get that way today. With music, it can be a very emotional thing at times, but it also can be very inspiring and uplifting at times. So I don't think I could ever be more thankful for the gift of music, be it as a performer, a musician, or a listener.
That moment when you're sat at home and that email, ping comes up, and you look at it, and it's an email from Tom Scholz's wife, or the Boston camp. I mean, did you initially think, right, somebody's winding me up here? this isn't real, how did you contain yourself after you've got that? Because if it had been anybody else, I know, if it had been me, I'd have been running around in a daze, not knowing what to do. I wouldn't have known whether I was going out to get drunk that night or to phone all my friends. What did you actually do?
Well, I didn't think it was a prank because I didn't tell anybody about my music. I was a closet musician. Most people had no clue that I did music. So there wasn't anyone that was out there that could prank me and say, ooh, guess what? Let's send Tommy an email and prank him. So I knew it was legit from the minute I seen it. But I also knew that from the moment I read that email, I knew that I had at least an opportunity to really change the direction of my life, and it certainly has. And again, it's something that 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 opportunity from Tom was, it was. I don't think I could ever thank him enough for that.
Was it actually true that he had no idea that you weren't a full-time musician and that you'd never step foot on, a real live stage in front of a live audience?
Yeah, I remember that part of the conversation because after Tom called me and we spoke for a few minutes, he said, "So I have to guess you're in a cover band." And honestly, Tim, I was a little hesitant to answer that question because I thought, "Gosh, if this guy knows that I've never sang in a band before, he ain't gonna have an interest in me." But I was like, I got to be honest. And I says, Tom, I says, I got to be honest with you. I said, I've never even been in a band before. And he just started laughing. And I can remember him saying, "Wow, wait till I tell Gary." And that was Gary Peel, of course, longtime Boston guitarist.
And the moment that you walked out on stage, how did you prepare for this mentally? But to do it on stage with the actual band at what is quite an emotional time as well, because Brad Delp had recently passed, and this was the tribute.
Right.
To walk out there and perform, how did you build up to that day and that moment?
Well, Tim, I don't think I ever prepared. Till this day, I don't. I think back and I didn't know how to prepare. I mean, having never done anything like that before, how could you prepare for it? I didn't know. All I knew is I could sing, and I knew the songs, and of course I didn't know the band. I just knew of them. But one of the funny things about that particular night was they had a sound check and they had a couple of technical issues, so they never got around to me singing at sound check, which I was really happy about because I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to go do the show and not have any more. I was I didn't want to have any extra added stress before I actually sang. So for me to sit there and watch, all the musicians that were part of this event rehearse and go through their sound check, I was in awe. It was like I had the best seats at a concert. It was like fantastic. But I don't think I prepared. I mean, having, sang live now and been performing for, nearly 15, 16 years, there's definitely a way to prepare and get your voice ready for shows, for live performances. And I didn't have a clue back then. And all I did was get up and sing the songs. And thankfully, Tom liked what he heard.
This must have been an immensely proud moment for your family and for your friends as well. What can you remember what the reaction was when you came off stage and you finally get home?
Oh yeah, I mean, well, there was a news article written in one of the Boston newspapers, and that was really a big thing, And you know, having my place of work where I worked at the Home Depot, they had on the bulletin board. They had a really nice spread, a nice layout, and then they had like a party, and it was really, yeah, it was it was pretty
And
special.
tell me, how did you cope then? Because you've gone from being, relatively unknown outside of your own circle to being a very well-known quantity, because everybody wants to know about you. They want to know things about you. They want to know, where you've come from, what you've done. They want to know everything about you. Some people find that very difficult to deal with. How did you find it?
Well, I always stayed very grounded. I think one of the things that one of the things I've learned over the years going out with touring with the band Boston has been how down to earth they all really are. And, people may label you as a rock star, but as long as you don't label yourself as the rock star, I think you kind of keep yourself in check. And that really works well for me. I remember in an interview once, Tom Scholz has said, "The rock star life is a life I step into for just a few minutes and then I step back out. And I kind of look at that the same way. I mean, I love being a part of the music community, especially at this level. But I also look at it as I am just a part of it. I'm not, you know, the music world doesn't revolve around me, nor does it dictate my life. I mean, it's a big part of it. But it certainly is nice to go out and be recognized. That will happen from time to time. But what people take away from that is when they come up, and what means more to me is if they come up to me and tell me, wow, you got a great voice or a great singing voice, or I saw the show last night, it was fantastic. Sure, that means a lot to me. But what really means a lot to me is when people come up and compliment on my family or my kids or
Mm.
my wife or geez, what a wonderful family you have. That to me that means a little bit more than the accolades that you might get as a musician.
So, lastly, then, plans for the future. So, we've got the new album. Hopefully, there'll be some live dates with that. Is there a continuing hope that you might record something again with Boston, maybe play again live?
I would certainly love that. But again, Tim, that is, Tom is, he would be the one to answer that question. Of course, if my phone rings and it's the Boston camp and they want to go out on tour, certainly I would be thrilled to get that phone call. But until that comes, maybe it'll never come. But if it does, I'll continue to do my own music and to keep myself prepared. Again, you can't shut your music down when you're not performing. Like with Boston, I'm thankful that I have other things that I can do to keep me busy because it keeps me in good shape. Musically, I'm ready to go, and it's really been just a wonderful blessing. If Boston tours again, I certainly would love that, and I know the fans would really love it.
Yeah.
But if they do, they do. If they don't, I'm again more than thankful for the time that I did get to go out with the band and enjoy that experience.